For those who haven't watched the first episode, let's start with a quick summary. You arrive in England after emerging from a time machine. At first, you are seen as a threat, but King Harold soon comes to trust you. Thanks to the thousands of modern weapons, drones, tanks, vehicles, and training techniques you brought with you, you transform the English army. You defeat the Norman invasion, and the court is in awe of you. However, this rise fuels the jealousy and fear of some lords. An assassination attempt occurs in the palace at midnight, but you manage to survive thanks to your modern equipment. England now faces not only external enemies, but also a growing threat from within. Harold summoned you to his presence that night. There was deep concern on his face. "It seems we won't only be fighting enemies outside," he said. "Even my own lords want you eliminated." You stepped forward. "Your Majesty, the real danger is not the power I am gaining. It is those who fear change rising up against you." Harold bowed his head. "True, but we must find out who planned this assassination." Meanwhile, spies who had infiltrated England were informing their governments that modern machinery and weapons were shaking Europe. In Rome, the Pope opened the report and read it aloud. A week later, spies from Rome met in the basement of an inn in London. Their mission was not to kill you. It was to secretly abduct you from the palace and take you to Rome. However, this was impossible in the crowded streets of London. Therefore, they contacted some English lords who had long distrusted you and envied your position. The lords agreed to help them. That night, a secret meeting was held in the north wing of the castle. Lords cloaked in capes whispered their plans. Lord Winthor slammed his fist on the table. "Harold is completely under that foreigner's spell. These guns, exploding spheres, giant iron chariots. This will destroy England," another lord said. "If Harold dies, who will inherit the throne? That cursed child who saved him?" So they made a decision. They would hand you over to the Normans. In return, William had promised them a new English throne. But there was something they didn't know. One of Harold's loyal guards had secretly eavesdropped on the meeting. The night the European armies moved, the door was broken down again. After the first assassination attempt failed, the lords had come this time with a much larger force. Hundreds of guards flooded the palace, bullets ricocheting off the walls. You put on your night vision goggles, seeing every movement through the thermal camera. One by one, they fell to the ground in the darkness. For them, the legend of the immortal warrior was now becoming reality. Harold came running. His eyes were filled with horror. "If so many lords have betrayed me, England could fall." You replied calmly, "No, Your Majesty, this is only the beginning." After the Norman War, you began completely modernizing the army. Drones were modified to carry bombs, not just for reconnaissance. You added extra armor plates to the tanks. The Huscarls were formed into a special unit, and you named them the Iron Storm. When the 3 attack helicopters and 2 heavy transport helicopters you brought from the time machine were lined up in the palace courtyard, everyone held their breath. The lords were not pleased. Many bowed to Harold and said, "Your Majesty, these iron birds are too dangerous. They take control away from us." Harold watched silently. He was fascinated, but there was hesitation within him. You boarded one of the helicopters. As it rose into the sky, the crowd watched in awe. Harold murmured, "With this power, England will be superior not only to the Normans, but to the entire continent." But a fiery-haired, ambitious noblewoman, a distant relative of the king, watched you from a high window and whispered angrily, "This foreigner will block my son's path to the throne. I must stop him." 3 weeks after the victory, the envoys rushed to the palace. The European kingdoms had united under the Pope. France, Denmark, Norway, all were preparing to declare war on England. Harold's face turned ashen. "A united European army. How will we stop this?" You walked over to the map and marked 3 possible points of attack. "Your Majesty, the advantage is ours. I will prepare the plan." Harold fixed his eyes on you. "Your plan is now England's destiny." The next day, a special 25-person team was formed for the helicopter squadron. Thousands of archers were selected, and all were issued modern sniper rifles. The lords protested again, shouting, "These soldiers were trained to shoot arrows." You spoke sternly to them, displaying your rank. "My priority is the security of England. You are forbidden to interfere with military order." While the soldiers looked at you with admiration, the lords remained silent in anger. That day, you had a long meeting with Harold, explaining the world of 2025 to him. The lords entered the room to complain about you to Harold, and they complained about you to the king. Harold stood up angrily. "You will not interfere in military affairs. England will survive not by resisting innovation, but by embracing it." The next morning, an English spy entered the palace and bowed to Harold. "Your Majesty, the European army has moved early. They won't wait a week." Everyone froze. You stepped forward and spoke decisively. "They don't know about the helicopters. If training is accelerated, victory is possible." Training intensified. However, one of the heavy transport helicopters crashed, killing 5 soldiers. This loss shook the army and fueled internal unrest. As morale plummeted, border guards rushed over. "The European army will be here in 3 days." There was no time left. You selected 8 disciplined soldiers as a special team. They trained around the clock with 3 attack helicopters. By the end of 3 days, their synchronized movements in the sky had become flawless, and the day of battle arrived. When the European alliance reached the border, they expected to find a massive British army facing them. But the field was empty. As they advanced in bewilderment, hundreds of tanks, 2,000 snipers, and 100,000 soldiers emerged from behind the hills. Then 2 helicopters crossed behind enemy lines. The European army began to realize they had no choice but to surrender. They attacked the first envoy you sent in an armored vehicle with fury. They were horrified when the helicopters intervened and strafed the rifle lines. When the second envoy arrived, the commanders gave up. "Drop your weapons and lie down," you shouted. Drones watched them all from the sky. Those who did not surrender were neutralized by snipers. Then the king's palaces fell one by one. The European rulers knelt before Harold. Just as victory was about to be celebrated, the tragic news arrived. The time machine was failing. You rushed to the palace. The blue lights were flickering. The system was malfunctioning. The machine might never work again. Harold placed his hand on your shoulder. "If you stay by my side, we will rule these lands together. But if you leave, you will vanish into history as a stranger whose name is forgotten." And now, the decision is yours. Will you stay in England and become world ruler with Harold? Or will you return to your own time and end the story here? The king will watch the video. If you get 4,000 likes and request the next episode in the comments, write it in the comments.